Talk more about that judgment then. We're joined tonight by the University of Johannesburg's physics professor, Hartmut Winkler. Professor, very good evening to you. Welcome back to News at Prime. How complicated a ruling would this be to implement for government?
Yes, well, what's happening at the moment when a particular suburb is due to be switched off, they do it at one central point where you can, and that's why essentially every building in that suburb gets switched off simultaneously, and then again, hopefully it all comes on again at the same time. If you wanted to be selective and switch off certain houses and not others, you would literally need to almost go to every property and switch things off there. And that doesn't work. In Johannesburg, for example, city power is already stretched to the limit, sending people to the various places every 2 hours to switch something on and switch something off again. They just simply don't have the people, never mind that how you actually were to do this. So
is it possible? Is it possible, sir, to, I don't know, flick a switch at a hospital, at a school, at a police station that would exempt just that building from what's going on?
If the suburb that the school is located in is switched off, then it doesn't matter what you do at the hospital or school. If you try and switch that on or off, if there is no power in the suburb, the hospital's not going to get any power either. So as your previous input mentioned, the only real feasible way of getting around that is to provide schools, police stations and hospitals with alternative power generating facilities. Now, I'm quite amazed that some hospitals apparently don't have that already, because you would have thought that regardless of whether we have load shedding or not, in a place like in a hospital, it's absolutely critical that you have some sort of backup at any particular moment, because things can happen. And it's not just a South African situation, it's worldwide. Hospitals will have backup electricity supplies if something goes wrong. As far as schools and police stations are concerned, yes, I think largely that's going to be a case of either installing solar panels or buying diesel generators. And yes, that all will cost. I suppose the silver lining of that is that once you have, if it's solar panels and you have those installed, then you have them practically for good. So it's going to save on electricity costs 10 years down the line or so. But quite rightly, yes, right now it would be extremely difficult to implement, especially because there's a 60-day time limit set to this. So I believe the government is probably going to appeal this, not because they think they might be able to turn the judgment around, but simply just to win more time.
You're quite right. It was a report of News 24 today. They say they've spoken to the presidency spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya, who's indicated that an appeal is at this point very likely, not confirmed yet. But even if government were to go that route and say, buy more time, how much time would it take realistically to implement some of the backup measures which you were just suggesting? Because I'm curious about whether there's even enough of that backup material to go around in the country when you consider the thousands of these buildings which would have to be covered.
Exactly. I don't know offhand how many schools there are in the country, but it must be tens of thousands. And it's not enough just to put up 5 or 6 solar panels. A typical school will probably need something of at least 50, maybe even more. And similarly, with a single generator diesel generator can do the school, I'm not sure about. So it's an enormous undertaking. And the people that can install these sort of facilities they're just not enough in the country to go through a major operation like that. And I think the countries belatedly realize that this is something where skills need to be built up very fast. With Premier Lesufi saying that he's going to be encouraging the training of solar panel installers and so on. But all this is coming a little bit late. And if I was to guess how long it would take to implement everything, I think we're talking of 3 or 4 years. And bear in mind that the government has had a situation where they were ordered to deal with pit latrines, which still exist at some schools, and to this day, this hasn't been implemented either. So I would see that going pretty much the same route, if they were to do this.
And the challenge, you and I aren't lawyers, but is that in the judgment itself, what the court said was that there were warnings about a power crisis on the horizon for South Africa. It worsened progressively from about 2008. and that there was no adequate response. So even if there were to be an appeal, government would again have to fight against that very issue, that ultimately we're here because, yes, demand outstrips supply, but there was a failure to plan for this moment.
Yes, there was. Ultimately, I really don't know how the law would deal with a situation like that. I don't think one can literally charge past presidents and what have you that might have been in a position to assist in this situation. So, yes, as you said, we're both not lawyers. I don't know what the outcome of that would be. But yes, in practice, the whole thing doesn't work. I think that the judges pronounced on the basic matter about whether we should have functioning hospitals, schools, and police stations, given that those are very critical components of the state, and felt that there's something needs to be done there. I'm not sure about the 60-day deadline, how they figured this would work out. So I think that might be something that the government could appeal successfully. But as far as the rest of the judgment, I think they're probably not going to win. And yes, they might. If they appeal, it's merely to win time.
Right. And if we need a mass rollout of generator systems, a mass rollout of solar, that means contracts have to come from government to do that. We've already spoken about the fact that these would come at great cost in this country. That then presents another layer of the need to scrutinize how those are awarded and to whom, and etc.
Oh, yes, very much so, because I think there's one thing we've learned out of COVID and some of the measures that were taken there is that the system is very easily abused if there's some sort of a sense of rush or crisis that you need to deal with immediately. And yes, I'm sure there's lots of people who would claim they can install solar panels. It's not such a simple task. One does need people to understand the process fully to do this. And yes, right now we are just quite short in the country with that. That's also why people that do want to go into solar now are finding it difficult to do so, simply and are being told to wait a couple of months. On the one hand, because there's not enough installers. On the other hand, there's also a massive demand for batteries, inverters, and panels right now. And even though most of those come from China and they are being produced at quite a large scale, I think they're not coming as fast as people would like them to become.
And in our country, when you talk about schools, for example, we know the massive infrastructure challenge where every year thousands of incidents are reported of vandalism and theft at schools. If people are stripping school buildings of taps and windows, what chance does a set of generators or solar panels stand?
Exactly. I think that's a very serious concern because from what I gather, there are already some criminals who are very specifically targeting those sort of items. And batteries are expensive. Panels themselves, if you steal them, they're big. Carrying them around is not that easy. Although at a school which is not guarded at night, I'm sure that would happen as well. But I think it's especially batteries and inverters which are extremely vulnerable.
Professor Hartmut Winkler, a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much.